Topic 1, Lesson 2. The Hasmonean Dynasty. The history of the Hasmonean revolt is a story of faith, independence, and dynasty. The Hasmonean Dynasty, rooted in a courageous uprising against foreign oppression, rose to prominence in the 2nd century BCE and brought a rare period of Jewish independence to the land of Israel. What began as a rebellion against religious persecution transformed into a dynasty that ruled Judea for nearly a century, leaving a profound mark on Jewish history. However, like many dynasties, the Hasmonean story is one of both glory and conflict, as internal strife, foreign influence, and the desire for power ultimately led to their downfall. Consider the origins of the Hasmonean dynasty as born in the Maccabean revolt. The story of the Hasmonean dynasty begins with the Maccabean revolt, a rebellion sparked by the oppression of Jewish religious practices under the Seleucid Empire. In 167 BCE, Antiochus IV Epiphanes, the Seleucid king, imposed Hellenistic culture on his territories, enforcing the worship of Greek gods and outlawing core Jewish practices, including the observance of the Sabbath and circumcision. The desecration of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem, where a statue of Zeus was erected, served as the final affront to the Jewish people, igniting widespread outrage. In the face of this oppression, a Jewish priest named Mattathias of the Hasmonean family, from the town of Modian, took a bold stand. When a Seleucid official demanded that he and his fellow Jews perform a pagan sacrifice, Mattathias killed the official and called upon his people to resist the foreign rule. Fleeing to the mountains with his 5 sons, John, Simon, Eleazar, Jonathan, and Judah, Mattathias launched a guerrilla war against the Seleucids. Under the leadership of his son Judah, known as Judah Maccabee or the Hammer, the Jewish forces grew into a formidable army. The Maccabean revolt was a struggle for both religious freedom and political autonomy. Judah Maccabee led his forces in a series of daring and successful battles, gradually pushing the Seleucids out of Judean territory. In 164 BCE, the Maccabees reclaimed the temple in Jerusalem, purified it, and rededicated it to the worship of the God of Israel. A victory commemorated in the Jewish festival of Hanukkah. The victory was a symbolic and spiritual triumph for the Jewish people, yet it marked only the beginning of a longer struggle for independence. Hasmonean rule was established in the Maccabean revolt. After Judah Maccabee's death in battle, leadership passed to his brothers, Jonathan and then Simon. In 152 BCE, Jonathan managed to secure an official position within the Seleucid administration as high priest, granting the Hasmoneans both political legitimacy and religious authority. When Simon assumed leadership, he formally declared Judea an independent state, free from Seleucid influence. Simon's achievement was a remarkable moment in Jewish history, the establishment of a self-governing Jewish kingdom for the first time since the fall of the Davidic monarchy. In 140 BCE, Simon was officially recognized as the high priest, ethnarch, and military leader of the Jewish people. This act laid the foundation for the Hasmonean dynasty, a lineage that would combine religious, military, and political power under a single family. For the next several decades, the Hasmoneans expanded their territory through military campaigns and diplomacy, restoring control over lands that had once been part of the biblical Israel. Judea flourished under this newfound autonomy, with the temple in Jerusalem once again serving as the heart of Jewish worship and national identity. The Hasmonean dynasty moved to consolidate their power. The Hasmoneans pursued an aggressive policy of territorial expansion, at times converting neighboring peoples to Judaism by force, an unusual practice in Jewish history. Under John Hyrcanus, reigned 134 to 104 BCE, the Hasmonean state reached its peak, extending its borders to include Samaria, Idumea, and parts of the Transjordan. Hyrcanus not only consolidated the kingdom's power, but also enforced religious uniformity, compelling conquered peoples, including the Idumeans, to adopt Jewish customs and laws. Hyrcanus' successors continued his expansionist policies. His son, Aristobulus I, assumed the title of king, marking the transition from a theocratic leadership to a Hellenistic-style monarchy. This shift reflected the growing influence of Greek culture within the Hasmonean court, as the rulers began to adopt Hellenistic titles, customs, and, at times, alliances. Aristobulus was succeeded by his brother, Alexander Jannaeus, who ruled as both king and high priest from 103 to 76 BCE. A fierce warrior and ambitious ruler, Alexander Jannaeus expanded the kingdom even further, though his reign was marred by internal divisions and opposition from the Pharisees, a Jewish sect that resented the king's secularization and his oppressive policies. Due to internal conflicts, the Hasmonean dynasty fell into decline. As the Hasmonean dynasty grew more powerful, internal conflicts began to tear it apart. The Pharisees, a religious group advocating strict adherence to Jewish law, clashed with the ruling Hasmoneans, who they felt were compromising religious values in their pursuit of political power and Hellenistic influence. This tension came to a head under Alexander Jannaeus, whose brutal suppression of a Pharisee-led rebellion led to a civil war that ravaged Judea. Thousands of dissenters were executed, and the kingdom became increasingly polarized. After Alexander's death, his widow, Queen Salome Alexandra, took the throne. She sought to mend the rift between the Pharisees and the monarchy, appointing Pharisees to positions of influence and encouraging a more religiously observant administration. Her reign brought a brief period of peace, but upon her death in 67 BCE, a fierce power struggle erupted between her sons, Hyrcanus II and Aristobulus II. This fraternal conflict weakened the kingdom and created an opportunity for foreign intervention. Roman intervention brought about the end of Hasmonean rule. The struggle between Hyrcanus II and Aristobulus II for the throne of Judea led both brothers to seek the support of Rome, a rising power in the eastern Mediterranean. In 63 BCE, the Roman general Pompey intervened, capturing Jerusalem and placing Judea under Roman control. This marked the end of the Hasmonean kingdom's independence. Although the Hasmoneans retained the title of high priest and a measure of influence, they were now subject to Roman authority. In the following decades, the Hasmoneans attempted to navigate their diminished status under Rome. Herod, an Idumean and a political ally of the Romans, ultimately supplanted the Hasmonean dynasty by marrying into the family and receiving Roman support. In 37 BCE, Herod was installed by Rome as the king of Judea, effectively ending the Hasmonean rule. The last Hasmonean heir, Antigonus II, was captured and executed by the Romans, cementing the dynasty's fall. Consider the legacy of the Hasmoneans. The Hasmonean dynasty's legacy is complex. On one hand, they are celebrated for restoring Jewish independence, defending religious freedom, and revitalizing Jewish identity in the face of foreign oppression. Their victories against the Seleucid Empire and the rededication of the Temple remain defining moments in Jewish history, commemorated annually in the festival of Hanukkah. The Hasmoneans' rule symbolizes a period when Jews governed their own land and wielded considerable power on the world stage. Yet, the dynasty's later years were marked by power struggles, Hellenistic influence, and conflicts with religious factions. The internal divisions they sowed ultimately contributed to their downfall and set the stage for Roman domination. The Hasmonean experiment in Jewish sovereignty ended with the rise of Herod and the subjugation of Judea under Rome, a stark reminder of the fragility of independence in a world dominated by empires. The story of the Hasmoneans remains a compelling chapter in the history of Israel, a testament to both the strength and the vulnerabilities of a people striving for autonomy and fidelity to their faith amidst external and internal pressures. Their legacy continues to inspire reflection on the challenges of leadership, the costs of power, and the enduring significance of faith and identity.